Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we are here today to talk about another episode of Survivor 48, episode 11. And we have a very special guest here with us today to talk about it with us. From Deal or No Deal Island, season 2. He was not a direct member of the Family Alliance, but he is now a member of our Let's Chat Reality family, Phillip Solomon. Phillip, how are you?
I'm good. Look at you using the word special. That's nice. That is nice. That's humbling. I'm all about it.
Well, Philip, we always like to get our guests here. Do we like to hear about their reality TV origin story? So, what was kind of the first show that got you into reality TV, if you remember? And what are some of your favorite shows now?
Sweet. Okay, so I started like original OG as like a millennial reality connoisseur. Real World season 2 or 3, like all the way back. And then I went
Wow.
back and watched Real World season 1. Yep. So I was there from the beginning. I think that reality TV is such a great art form because for me, I think it's way less about the show. And I love the idea of seeing what happens when two different people, let's say someone from the Midwest that's never met a person of color or never met someone of a different religion versus someone from a more urban metropolitan area, and they have to solve a problem together. And like that's why I love the Survivor, the Big Brother. Like, so for me, number one, I'm a reality TV fan, but number two, I'm a fan of psychology and sociology and kind of that group dynamic that kind of makes it all work. Weird millennial flex. The other day, I had an interview with Beth and John from Real World, and they had the audacity,
Wow.
like all the way back. Yep, had the audacity to be like, "Hey, I don't know if you know who we are. I'm Beth and John." I was like, "Know who you are? I'm a reality TV like millennial. You raised me." They were like,
Yeah.
"Okay, we're not that old, but yes, so cool, so awesome."
I'm sure though that a lot of their guests do not know their history, so I'm sure that is something that they have to say to most guests. But
When you look at like the age of the average like Mormon wife versus me, that's fair. Yes, that makes perfect sense.
yeah, exactly, exactly. We just before we get into some Survivor, let's just kind of get just a couple of quick Deal or No Deal Island questions from you while we have you here, of course.
Let's do it.
So how did you end up on the show? Did you watch season one of the show, and that's what kind of got you into it, or just kind of was it just kind of did they reach out? How did it happen?
So it's pretty much like half me, half them. I had been in the casting process for The Real World, The Circle, Amazing Race, $1 Million Secret, all within the past like few years. And it was always very much like always a bridesmaid, never a bride situation. So I stopped applying. And then I got a message on Instagram from like a friend of a casting director friend that was like, "Hey, have you considered Deal or No Deal Island?" And I was like, "That sounds insane." And I have not watched a single episode. So they recruited me. I will also squash this right now. You cannot get recruited to be on a reality show. You can get recruited to audition to be on a reality show. I still have to go through every round of auditions. They just gave me like a screener phone call after looking at my social media to then put me into the process with everyone else. So I still have to do all the rounds, all the Zooms, all the applications, the psych test, the physical. I still have to do all those things. But I think they were originally looking for just like a personal trainer that just like picks things up and puts them down again. But then once they found out about my history and like education and
Yeah.
championing mental health and fitness and stuff like that, they were like, "This is so much better than what we initially thought."
Yeah, they got a lot more than they bargained for,
Story of my
and
life, my friend. Story of my life.
and yeah, I feel like recruits get such like a bad rap on these shows when someone finds out they're a recruit. It's like, oh my gosh, like that, you know. But I feel like you're totally right. They do have to go through all the same process, and a lot of times those recruits end up being some of our favorite players on these shows.
I went back like after the process was over and I spoke to my casting producer and I was like, "So listen, if this were a job I would want to get into," which I totally would. I was like, "How many people do you find on like Instagram or social, whatever else?" And then how many of them actually make it through? He was like, to be honest with you, I probably find 10, 15, 20 a day. Maybe one or two of them has the personality and energy that their social media has. He's like, so every
Oh,
so often you do get lucky, but it's Instagram. It's very easy to curate an image. And then when you're on the spot and someone's like, tell me about yourself, and you're like, I don't know where to begin. And you're like, no, 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 you need to go. You need to be ready to go. So it's one of those where Instagram will give you a good snapshot. And then you have to like make the call and see if that person really has the energy, the charisma to just like explode immediately.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, for anyone who didn't watch Philip's season of Deal or No Deal Island, there were two Survivor alum on your cast, of course, Parvati Shallow and Australian survivors David Janae. Now, it appears from the show that you would originally immediately recognize Parvati,
Yeah, I was
but
shocked.
nobody. Yeah, but nobody besides Parvati recognized David, it appeared, until he revealed his secret during the final temple. So what was your reaction to hearing that news about David, and would it have changed your strategy at all if you had known?
There was a deleted scene that has since been released on Instagram where like I called David out probably like 75% of the way through it. I was like, dude, you've been on something. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, just when you watch him act in front of the camera, he knows the angles. He like it's so for someone on the outside, it's very fish out of water to get like hooked up to a microphone and there's cameras following you around and you're always kind of looking around because you don't really know like what to do or whatever. He didn't have that weird learning curve that we all had. And I was like, you've been
Interesting.
on something. And there's actually a clip. It's on my Instagram grid and his. I want to say he made me a
Okay.
collaborator with it because he did say that that I was like, dude, you've been on something. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like Australia, like, and also you're looking at him, the long hair. I said it on the show. He looks like if you took your wife to a yoga retreat, he's sleeping with your wife, like it's done. And so, like, in looking at him, I'm like Australian Survivor or something. And he's like, is that even a show, mate? And I was like, I don't know. I don't watch Australian TV, but still. And he was like, that would be a good show, right? And I was like, that'd be an amazing show. He like led me right into it. But I will say, when I did find out who he was, I thought it would make me dislike him and feel resentment towards him. And then I got even more respect for him because Parvati, Dr. Will, the big heavy hitters, they walked into the game with us knowing who they were. So they had a certain amount of clout and respect built into what they said. So their words kind of meant more, their influence meant more. And for him, David had that clout and had that respect and influence without anyone actually knowing who he was. And I think that that takes skill. It's like if you really watch it back, it was eating away at him like if you were throwing a surprise party for your best friend and you knew about it and they didn't, and you had to hang out with them for like 3 weeks straight. And so it was hard for him to really be like, I think you're supposed to do this, but I'm not really sure. Like you can really see him like restraining himself. And so his ability to restrain himself and then come clean with us at the end, I thought it was a respectable game. It was a hard game. He played the path of least resistance, but he killed it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, of course, keeping on David, the biggest moment of the season, of course, when he won nearly $6 million in the finale. What went through your mind while you were sitting there watching him continuously just say no deal over and over and over again? And at what point do you think you would have taken the
Stop playing. The thing that was going through my head was stop playing, dude. This is
deal?
insane. Here's what you guys did not see as viewers. That Deal or No Deal game started around 8:30 p.m. and ended around 1 a.m. Like it went all the way through. Like it was when I say
Oh
hours. So
my
there was like
God.
almost a full reunion, screaming, yelling, crying. They had to cut all of it out because they had to show his entire game. It's not like you can edit things around because in the kind of game that we play on Deal or No Deal Island, if you as a viewer are seeing 12 briefcases and then the next shot you see 8 in your head, you're
Right.
like, so what happened? So you have to show every round that he plays. So even if you look at the episode breakdown versus season 1, Jordan's game in season one was only like the final 10, 15 minutes of the episode. But
Yeah.
because David played so many rounds, they had to move us all over. Our double elimination got split. Like it changed the entire season because we then had
Sure.
to take an entire hour at the end and just play his game. So like there was a full reunion. It was really the first time we had all seen each other since like the pier, the briefcases, the fighting, the yelling, the argument. People are comparing the notes after they left the game. So things got heated very fast, and thank God none of that video footage, it seems, will ever see the light of day. But just so you guys know, there was a whole other show that was happening.
Oh my God, put it on Peacock. What are we
Right?
doing?
I know.
Yeah, they do like the extended reunions on Bravo on Peacock. Like they could just do the extended Dondi finale on
Oh,
Peacock.
it was Bravo worthy, and Joe was
Yeah.
Andy Cohen, and I was sitting right next to him. I was in it.
Oh my God. I hope I guess it's probably at this point not gonna see the light of day, it seems like, but gosh, I wish it would.
I will tell you that 80% of it cannot be aired on network television. If we were a Peacock show, you would have seen a whole
Yeah.
different 12 episodes. I'll say that.
Ooh, okay. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Well, what has life been like for you since the show has ended, Philip? Who are you still in contact with from the season? What has it been like just kind of being around since the show has aired?
I talked to almost everybody from the show. As far as real life afterwards, I've said this before and I will say it again. Once you're on a reality show, you have an option here. Are you going to treat it as an experience or a platform? So many of my amazing friends and cast members have just been like, it was an experience. I went there. It was cool. It was
Yeah.
awesome. I'll remember it for the rest of my whole life. Cool, great, respectable. Love that. But I decided that it was going to be a platform. And so I've used that platform to do interviews for Muscle and Fitness and GQ and Vogue and so many other things. And my Instagram DMs are blowing up with just like, it turns out my big demographic, I was like, yo, you're going to come onto this show and be like the hot guy. And America was like, no. But the thing is, my demographic, the moms and the kids. And so I've been killing it with like middle schoolers and their moms. And you know what?
Love that.
I'll take that. I will take that because that was truly my demographic before the show, and it's still my demographic after the show. So I'm good.
And that's like the least toxic fan base I could possibly think
Literally, yeah,
of.
of course.
All
Fantastic.
right. Well, let's get into some Survivor 48 then. Philip, what are your overall thoughts on the season so far as we kind of near the end?
Oh,
Loaded
I
question,
think.
maybe.
I mean, yeah, I think that for this season specifically, I don't think it's the cast members' fault, but because we got so many good explosive moments right off the bat, you can't maintain that momentum throughout an entire season. You just can't. And because our big personalities of, say, Thomas, I've met now Steph, Bianca, like I've met some big personalities that we got rid of early on that
Yeah.
like we missed out on some really big people that I wish America got to know as well as I have gotten to know. This last group here, personalities equally as big, equally as good, but I think the problem we're running into is we want them to mesh well, but this group almost meshes too well where they're like, why rock the boat when we don't have to? And there isn't someone like a, say, a Tom. Like we're getting glimmers of it from Kyle and Camilla, like glimmers. It comes in and then we're like, and then they're like, nah, and we're like, oh. So like it's, oh, but as a whole, I can't say that I would play the game differently because the people that could make the moves aren't really in a dangerous position yet. And so
Right.
because no one has really gone after him, it's hard to say this is the time to make the move. But as a viewer, this is the time to make the move.
Yeah, I've been saying, and I assume you're a Big Brother fan.
Always.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, I figured. But I would say this reminds me so much of Big Brother 22 in a lot of ways, where it's like there is just this like big alliance of all the really physical people, and everyone. The cast itself from the at the start was so great on both of these seasons, and then all of like the really big personalities kept going out one by one by one, and then you're left with kind of these people who are playing a really good game like at the end of the day, but it's just a frustrating game to watch when the people on the outside just aren't able to really get it together.
Okay, so now that I have gone back this season and watched Australian Survivor, because you're not going to
Mm.
make me look stupid twice. Anyway,
I've
what
been
I
doing
do
that too,
love,
honestly, since
what I do love about this season of Australian Survivor is that I feel like producers will interfere without interfering. What
yeah.
I would definitely steal from them right now is I would split them in half and make them do two individual eliminations, then come back together and play the rest of the whole game. I think they need a full reset. And two people have to go home, split it in half. It doesn't matter how they randomly decide who's on what half. It doesn't matter. But I'd love to see, even if it really took place like a week ago or two, that split in half would have really come in handy right around now.
Because they did do that, but it was too early when they were able to get out two people that, yeah, weren't the
Well, one of the
problem.
things that I saw in Australia is they do it more than once, which like I wasn't aware
Yeah.
of. That I'm like, that's kind of cool because they, even when they voted people out, they voted people over to the other tribe. So like by the time they actually
Right, right.
merged, they knew each other, and I was like, okay, cool. Now there's a real game happening here, and it's
Yeah.
seeming right now we're kind of at like a hold, a stall. That I'm like, if we could just split this entire group in half and have two different votes and come back together, it would be an even playing field, and anyone could still do well here.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Molly, we talked about most episodes week to week, but I feel like we haven't like really talked about like the season as a whole necessarily now that we're at the end. So, Molly, what are your thoughts on the season kind of as a whole?
Yeah, I echo everything Philip says. Well, just with getting the personalities out in the beginning that we would love to see throughout the season, I think that definitely put a damper on some of these episodes lately, as we aren't really seeing any of those big moves actually happen. Like throughout the episode, you're like, oh my gosh, maybe, and then no. So I feel like this actual merge part of the season, we haven't seen as great of episodes as were seeing prior to the merge. So I don't know. I'm hoping we get more excitement in the next couple. In the next, we only have 2 episodes left, but which is
It's
also crazy
crazy.
to think
Yeah.
about. Yeah. But overall, I love Survivor. Even it's not the best season as a whole, it's still a good season.
Exactly, exactly. Well, let's kind of get into the start of the episode then. Coming back from Tribal after Star was voted out, Mary pitches a plan to Camilla that if they are looking to take a shot at Joe and Eva, they should keep her around for that and do that now rather than getting rid of her first. So that if they can't get them out back to back, Mary's still there as a backup option. They don't have to start looking at each other yet. She also pitches this plan to Mitch, and they both seem to be receptive to it, realizing that a move needs to be made, but obviously, things are still kind of in flux. Now, this is kind of to me what's kind of most frustrating is that it doesn't even feel like I could almost understand it if like Joe and Eva were like twisting their minds so much that they didn't realize that they were as big of a threat as they are, but it feels like everyone sees it. And that's almost what's more frustrating is that it's like they see the move that needs to be made, but they're just not willing to pull the trigger because they feel like they can't trust each other enough to be able to pull it together. So, Molly, do you think that this was a good pitch from Mary? Do you think this is a direction they should have gone?
Yeah, I think Mary's pitch made sense. Obviously, she knew she was at the bottom, and she's doing anything she can really to want to get people to want her to stay. But at the end of the day, obviously, we know they were just not going to want to flip. But I think that it would have been really smart for them to do this and try to get out a really strong competitor who can win a lot of the immunities and who has a really strong alliance behind their back already. That the people on the bottom, like Mary and Mitch, and like they could, and also Camilla as well, because Camilla's not as strong in that alliance. So I think like they obviously could have done something here, but it just didn't end up happening.
Yeah. Philip, what do you think?
I have to put on my Deal or No Deal island hat for a minute because everyone's
Yeah.
like, why? you saw that like the celebrities were threats. Why couldn't you do anything about it? And I was like, that's not how our game works. And
Right.
we knew who the threats were. It was very easy for us to be like, they have to go. But we didn't know when entering a challenge, was it going to be partners with them? Was it going to be on the other side? Then they had to be eligible for elimination. Then we weren't sure if they were going to play or not play. If they played, what if they won? Who would they send home? Or do we send in
Right.
one of our allies to play and hopefully send them home? All of that had to happen because it wasn't just a game of the numbers. The only reason I go there is because this is a very easy game. Like, this one is a game
Yeah.
of, if you have the numbers, you're good. And so, although I do feel like Reddit and Twitter destroyed us for not taking more of a hit at the celebrities and the threats, we couldn't, based on how the game was set up. Survivor, however, if you have the numbers, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. It's such two like apples and oranges that you're trying to compare if you're trying to say like that. Yeah, that two very different games. But yes, no, I agree. I think yeah, it's frustrating that it's like I feel like they talk so much, or at least I think Mitch had a confessional on last week maybe, where he was like, I can't trust Star enough to be able to make this move with her. And I'm like, you don't have to trust someone the entire season in order to make a move with them this week. Like, you just have to trust them just enough to be able to say that they're going to vote the way that they're telling you this one week. And this, it benefited all of them to do that last week. And I feel like that's what you have to think of is like, what are they incentivized to do? And I would think that they would have trusted that Star was incentivized to go after this big alliance she's not in. And you don't have to trust her next week, but just, yeah, I think that's what's so frustrating is that I think there's this mentality this season where it's like, I need to fully trust everyone that they're going to be loyal to me all throughout the end of the game.
So I think in the game, and I've always kind of wondered this just like as a viewer, I am not a hardcore Survivor fan. I've watched
Hmm.
the past 10, 12 seasons, but like,
Okay.
when you throw out a Survivor season number, I'd have to be like, who won? And then I can try and figure out like the rest
Yeah.
down there. So here's what I will say. It's always hard for me as a viewer to be like, okay, when do you change your mentality from just survive the night to who can I stand next to at the end? And I think that every player kind of views that differently as far as like, okay, so now I have to not be playing for can I be here tomorrow, but if I'm in the final tribal, if I'm in that last three, who can I speak out against? Who am I going to win against? And it feels like this tribe is still just playing to survive for the next day. And I'm like, you can't, baby. Again, you only got 2 episodes left. And like, I can say this from being on a show, you know when the episodes are. Like, I
Yeah.
knew there was going to be like 12 excursions, and I made it to excursion number 10 of 12, and I was like, this is the 10th episode. You could figure it out. It's not
Yeah.
hard. And so, like, even they know I don't need the rice. I don't need the this. We're only here for a few more days. I'm like, then you're saying it. So you're aware of how much time you have left. I don't know when they want to start to make that switch. Hopefully it's this coming week, but who knows, honestly? Who knows?
I hope so. Yeah, it's crazy to hear in episode 11 like it's is it still too early to make this move? I'm like it's episode 11. This isn't Australian Survivor. We're getting to the end here. Like but yeah. Yeah, it's every season's different. Like I think I was talking to Molly or someone about this the other day that like in Survivor Second Chances, season 31, there was like this term that they had come up with called voting blocks, where it was like, we're not going to say that we're in alliances. We're just going to say we're in voting blocks for this one week.
Yep.
And I just need to work with whoever I need to work with this one week to get what I want done. And then next week, just completely change that up. But it was like that was the mentality that season, and this season it seems to be the total opposite of that. And that's what makes Survivor great. You know what? As maybe disappointing as the season has been, what makes it great is that every group comes up with their own rules, their own situations of what they respect, what they don't respect, and that's what makes it every season so unique.
I have a hot take that you're going to hate. Both
I
of you.
won't.
No, no, no. You will. I think that here's my hot take. I'm sorry. I think that at this point, and it's also happening on Drag Race, the contestants are such good studies of the show and the game, it's almost like they're playing a caricature of the game instead of the
Mm.
actual game. Like they're basing all their moves on this one from season one that I was like if I were on that island, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like it seems like there's a lack of just being present. And it's
Yeah.
happening on Drag Race as well, where now they're using certain runway looks, iconic looks from other like drag queens that have been on the show. When the show starts to reference itself, it's not interesting to watch. They think it is, but it's not interesting to watch
Hmm.
because it doesn't feel like it's real people playing, making these real decisions for themselves if they're always using a past player or a past move as the reasoning for that move, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. Yeah. I think I would have a hard time doing that at this point, to be honest. And I know that you're right, but I know that I would also, like, just as such a big fan, like, that would be so hard for me not to do. But no, I think you're totally right. I think we see that on all sorts of different shows, on Housewives, on everything, where it's like once you get like once this show has been on for a certain time, like you're not going to be able to find someone probably who's either not watched it or isn't watching it in preparation for being on it, and then just has all that in their mind. So no, I think that's a very good point. Well, Joe then explains in his confessional that he wants to go to Final Four with his alliance of Kyle, Cheyenne, and Eva because he wants to win against the toughest opponents. But Kyle is struggling with his decision because he knows that Joe has been in control of the game but doesn't want to hurt anyone. He knows that no matter what direction he decides to go in, he's going to hurt either Camilla or Joe and Eva. Now, Philip, as someone who's obviously played on a similar show, was it harder than you thought it would be to on Dondi to plot against people who you form these emotional connections with?
Yeah. And like for me, I always look for the biggest personality in the room, the loudest voice in the room, and that's who I hang out with. I think that like there are people that those personalities scare them. And in looking back on it after the experience, I was like, who were your three like closest friends on the island? And I was like, Parvati, David, and Dr. Will. That probably says a lot about me as a person, honestly. That I was like, wait, who are you? You're obnoxious. Come hang out with me. And so I think that you do get to the point, and like it was weird because if you watch my show back, Parvati, David, and I were three big physical threats that we did not go after one another until absolutely necessary. There was no
Yeah.
reason that the three of us made it as long as we did, but we just kind of had like a mutual respect for our like overall athleticism and overall like threatening mentality. And so we just kind of didn't go after each other until we absolutely had to. And I think that there are emotions that get mixed up in this. And even when David took me out, spoiler alert. Anyway, when David took me out, I think that like that was hard for him as a person. That wasn't hard for
Yeah.
him as a player. But the issue is sometimes it's hard for him to separate the two. And I think Australian Survivor set him up as this big like villain. And Deal or No Deal Island, because no one knew who he was, he got to actually be himself and start again. So if you get to watch him on our show, he exhibits far more empathy and compassion than he ever did in Australia. And I think that's where things get a little muddy, a little murky. That's kind of where Harvey and I kind of did not see eye to eye because we were mixing human emotions and friendships with the game. And so you do get to a point where you're like, I need to get rid of them, but I don't want to. I want to hang out with them all day and then not vote them out at night.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting that I think it's you watch it and you just think of them as kind of these chess pieces, but when you're really in it and you get to know these people on a personal level and spend 24/7 with them for days and days and days, by the end, I'm sure it does get so much harder than it seems it
Literally,
really will.
day one is like, who are you? Where are
Right.
you from? What do you do for work? By day three, you're like, and then this time in elementary school, you just go, you just start to share because you run out of stuff to talk about. And so you just get deeper and deeper so fast. Like you don't realize it, but without the internet, your cell phone, electricity, you're just hanging out for 24 hours a day
Yeah.
and you're sleeping 2 feet away from strangers. And so you're having these like talks all day and all night. You get so close to these people so fast.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure. Molly, do you think that Kyle, we see what direction he had obviously decided to go in this week, but do you think that this vote this week means that he has made his decision, or do you think that he will still really prioritize his relationship with Camilla and potentially still decide to try to go to the end with her versus Joe and Eva and Cheyenne?
Yeah, I do think he's gonna stay closest with Camilla here, and not turn on her. So I'm hoping that we see something happen this week with him and turning on either Joe or Eva, because obviously it's gonna stir up something, but we want that. And I hope that he does make that move, but obviously we didn't see that yet. So fingers crossed it happens.
Yeah, I still think there's a chance that he could really try to still at least make like Final Four with like maybe him, Camilla, Joe, and Eva. Like I could see that kind of being his overall goal here somehow to make that happen. I don't know why I just have this vision that Kyle and Camilla are going to end up in fire making together at Final Four. I don't know why. I just really feel like that's where the story is going, and I can't explain why that is, but I don't know why. I think that I could see them both making it that to that point at least.
Did you see the name of the next episode?
Ooh, I did, but I don't remember. What is it?
Icarus.
Oh,
Which
Mm.
I'm like, okay, finally give us something.
okay.
Anyone who is unfamiliar, super old myth, story, whatever else. So Icarus flew too close to the
Yeah.
sun. Everything was going super well until it wasn't. So like I'm hoping that like we're gonna get something out of it. But then again, the editors did us dirty this week, so they might do it again. I'm just saying that like that's the name. So I'm gonna hope that we're getting something good this week.
I hope so. I sure do. And it's so weird because Jeff preseason was like I had some reservations about 47, but I have no reservations about 48. Like I think it's a great season. And I'm like at this point I think everybody's like where's this great season that you spoke of? Like does that mean that something happens huge happens here and like somehow that this strong five is toppled over and we get someone outside of it as the winner? Like I mean, I feel like it's the only way that I could explain him saying that.
No, he has no reservations because
A strong guy wins.
Applebee's doesn't take reservations. Want to know why? Nobody wants to be there. And so he said, no reservations. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're good. No reservations. It's open. You could just like swing in or not, whatever. Like it's just, whenever he hates a season, we love it. And when
I
he's like, no,
know.
this is it, we're like, when? When is it? Is the it in the room with us now? Because we don't see
Yeah. Yeah, because like, how could you have 47 was like one of my favorite seasons, I think. Like,
it.
I'm like, how did you have reservations about this? Like, after the Operation Italy episode, like, how could you possibly have had reservations about this season, that season? But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess, what happens here. I sure hope that you're right. I hope that this Icarus means something here.
Hopefully.
But Eva confronts Mary then about eating the last coconut on the beach. We get coconut etiquette, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, a fun callback to banana etiquette from Heroes versus Villains, I believe. That was the name of the episode this week. So that was kind of fun that I noticed after watching. But Mary says she ate it because it's been 8 days since she's eaten anything. She knows she's not getting picked for a reward. So she's just going to go for it, which I appreciate. You know what? Go for it, Mary. But this upsets everyone else who wanted to save it for the remaining days that they have there. Molly, do you think that this was a mistake by Mary to do this? Do you think this potentially made people's minds up who were going back and forth here? Did this make a difference at all? Or is everyone overreacting?
Well, I think anytime it comes to food and hunger, it's always going to make people react in a strong way. So, because also with such limited resources that they have, like if they're hungry and then they see a coconut being eaten by someone you don't like, that's going to even heighten that. So I don't think it was overreacting. I think everyone just at this point hungry and wanting to eat, and they wanted this coconut. So they wanted it to be able to stay longer on the island, but Mary was like, "Never, no, I'm not going to go on a reward. Like, I'm just going to eat this now." So I mean, she was right. She wasn't going to get picked for a reward, but like she doesn't really need to bring it up in that kind of way. Also, like I think she could have gone about it in a little bit more subtle, probably, and not gotten as much hate for it. But yeah, it made for a funny segment in the episode, though.
Um,
Definitely.
Here's my question. It's only because you guys know the show so much better than I do. Just as someone that's been watching for the past 10 years or so, pretty consistently, but not really so much before then.
Yeah.
This is a lot of reward challenges involving snacks, right? Like they didn't all used to be food, wasn't it? Like spa treatments or like a call home. Like there were other
Yeah.
options, right? And now I feel like now we have a challenge for food and a challenge for immunity, and that's the format that we're just doing back and forth every episode.
Definitely. I think that if my memory serves, which my sometimes I don't have the best memory in the world, but yeah, I think we used to get like go to another island and like
Yeah, like
see,
we got
this
things.
performance or like well, because they used to be also like much more directly related to the culture of the island they were in, and now everything's on Fiji, so I think that they can't do that type of stuff as much. So now they're just kind of like doing a lot of the same types of things. Like sometimes we'll get to the what is it? The not the temple where good things happen. The sanctuary. No.
Sanctuary.
The sanctuary,
Yeah, is
yeah,
it that? Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm blanking right now. But yeah, like if that's kind of the only like other location that we ever get, it seems like, other than just going back to your beach.
I feel like it should have been like the hot showers and the shampoo and conditioner. Like I feel like there
Hmm.
were other options that I had been seeing throughout the years where like no wonder people are not complaining that much about like hunger. They literally get a reward every day, like almost
Yeah.
every other day. So like it really does change the game. And so with that said, with Harry being like, if I'm leaving anyway, I'm gonna eat. I hate it as one of them, but I love it as a viewer. You know.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for Eva to be the one that's talking about that. She's been on every reward. Like, has zero single reward that Eva has not been on. I think she's certainly been on the last three for sure, and
Yeah.
I think maybe more than that.
I want to say she's
But
been on everyone. I think I read online she's been on everyone.
that's
That's insane to
wild.
me.
That's wild. But yeah, but I can understand. Look, I can understand people being upset about it. But I think that Mary, if it's true, like she hadn't eaten 8 days, that's a long time. I can completely understand her also just kind of being like, look, I'm probably not going to be here tomorrow. Like, let me enjoy this.
Okay, I have a question for you two.
Yes.
Don't hate me. Do you think Charity was not as wrong as the rest of America does in being like people are afraid to go for Eva? Like they're just not acknowledging the fact that she's just chilling. I don't even want to say walking away. I want to say chilling on this island. Do you think there was more truth to Charity's statement than what we initially thought?
Molly, what do you think?
I think so. I feel like I mean, there's obviously things we don't also see, like in editing and everything like that. So whenever you hear when some contestants say that, you're like, well, maybe not, maybe this is true. And so obviously, like looking back on it now, you're like, okay, yeah, that this is true.
Yeah, I do. I think that I mean, look, like that moment that Eva and Joe had in episode 5, I think it was beautiful. Like it was an incredible moment. I do think that it made people a little bit afraid to go for Eva. If I'm like, I think that people are like, I don't want to be the one to do that after that moment. Like, I'm gonna get eaten alive by the public, and I can't blame them for that. Like I'm sure that would also go through my mind, but it's hard to watch because it's like, no, this is game. You want Eva wants to be treated, I would assume, just like everyone else. And I think that if you would go for her in this moment otherwise, then do it anyways. And I think that nobody can blame someone for doing that, but I can understand people kind of being a little bit hesitant to do that as well.
Justice for Charity.
Yeah. I know. I always said with Charity, I was like, I don't understand why everybody seems to like have this bad view of her in the game. Like I'm sure there are things we didn't see, like you said, Molly. But it was like everyone was like going so hard for her like very quickly, and I was like, I don't get it. Like, what did she do? But I
Yeah.
guess, yeah. I guess I'm sure we'll hear at some point people kind of talking and hearing things that we didn't get to see. But Well, going back into the episode, the a boat pulls up to camp, and they receive a note stating that someone has to go on a journey. They pick rocks, and Eva gets the purple rock, which means that she will be the one to go. Her game is that she has to stack tiles in a circle while standing on a balance beam, using only her foot to spin the disc. If she completes 4 levels before the time runs out, she keeps her vote. 8 levels, and she gets the knowledge is power advantage. Molly, what would your plan have been? Do you think you would have, like, after 4 levels tried to stop, like, we see, spoiler, that Eva decided in the end to do, or would you have gone for it to try to get that knowledge of power?
Well, it's interesting because we know Eva has like all of the
Right.
advantages here. So if I was in the situation and I didn't have those advantages, I definitely would want the knowledge is power advantage, especially if I was doing well at the challenge itself and knowing that I could complete it all 8. But maybe I would have just stayed to the 4 just because then it's at least I don't lose my vote at
Yeah.
that point. So it's like still okay. But I don't know. It's also I was like, would I be good at this challenge? Trying to think of that. I'm like, I don't know how good I'd be
Yeah.
doing that challenge. But so a lot of factors into it, but I think I would try for the 8 if best case scenario.
Yeah, because it is risky. Because, like, you could complete all 4 and then go for, like, the fifth, sixth, and then everything tumbles down, and suddenly now not only do you not have the knowledge of power, but now you don't even have your vote anymore, and you gotta go back and at least put the first 4 back together. Philip, what do you think? Let's say, like, not in Eva's position where she already has everything, but, like, if you didn't have, and this knowledge of power would actually be beneficial for you, what do you think you would have done there?
This challenge is hard. I think as a viewer, what it was missing was commitment and accountability. I think once you make the 4, you have to make the decision at that point. Are you going to go for the 8
Yeah.
or the 4? And you have to follow through with whatever you say.
Yeah.
Because she did like the 4 and a couple more and was like, meh. I was like, no, if you want to continue, you have to continue. Like, I think it needs to almost have like a level 2 where now there's no going back. You now need to make the decision. You said you were going to do the 8. Now you either do the 8 or you lose the vote. I think that the idea of that voyage, that journey needs to be the idea of like, yeah, the odds are you will lose your vote somehow. And I don't think the odds have to be stacked super high, but I think it needs to be like 60% to 40 that you lose your vote. And so, like, there is still a large amount there that you could do really, really well. And she can. Want to know why? Because she's well fueled, because she's eaten every anyway. So, like, for her, agility, stability, she's like, I got it. I just had fried chicken and waffles. She sings the stupid song. Like, they're in it. They're here. But at the same
Fried
time,
chicken and waffles.
I
Fried chicken and waffles.
cannot. Also, you're lucky
They're
I wasn't there
savory,
a week
they're
ago
sweet.
because, wow. Anyway, I think that, okay, my like hot take on this challenge is I was better as a viewer. I was happier as a viewer if the editors took the journey out of the episode completely.
Yeah.
I say don't even air it, because all it did was annoy me. I know that sounds bad, but I don't think it did any favors for the plot, the tribe, Eva as a whole. It didn't do any favors for anyone. And God bless her. I've met her. She's wonderful. But the audacity to come back and be like, well, guys, I didn't even need it. It didn't even matter. So who wants lunch? Anybody? Like, and you're like, wait, what's happening? Like, it was just, it was a complete inability. And like, again, I know this, but like a complete inability of like reading the room, that I was like, this doesn't make anyone look good. So like, as far as I'm concerned, we could have just edited out the entire challenge. It didn't further anything. She had her vote before she left. She had it when she got back. Cool, great. No risk, to the point where she literally walked away halfway through and was like, done. And we were like, what happened? What is going on? And she's like, heading home. All right, guys, bye. Thank you so much. Like, what? That was crazy town. Crazy town. We didn't need it. Get rid of the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy thing too was that, like, and I've seen people talk about this online, is that she technically knocked her whole thing down before the time ran
I
out.
said that. Yes. I
Like,
wanted them to get her on a technicality just to make the episode more interesting. I love her, but I think that at that
yeah.
point, I would have been like, here comes Jeff. And he's going to be like, all right, Eva, so I need to speak to you for a minute. Like, he's gonna do the thing, and we're gonna be like, okay, we're finally gonna get something. We didn't get anything. We didn't get anything.
Yeah, no, no, but I'm sure that the producers or whoever gave her permission be like, okay, you've said you're done, you can knock it down if you want. But like, that's still like so frustrating because it's like, yeah, I think you're totally right that she should have been able, like, she should have been forced to commit at the point, like, okay, I've done four, now I have to either finish the all eight or lose my vote, or yeah, like, yeah, lose my vote. Like, there should have been a little bit more risk involved, I think,
The
with that, but
hourglass
there
was
wasn't.
not done. She knocked down the tiles. Rules are rules.
Yeah.
Y'all watched Dr. Will stomp all over our rules. And if you know the rules, you can really stick with it and figure out how to manipulate the game. Who's to say that a big gust of wind wouldn't have come through when that had one grain of sand left in it? Like, who's to say? Like, we don't
Right.
actually know, but we'll never know now either. So really, I think there were a lot of things there that I was like, yeah, we need to take other things into account.
No, I totally agree. In the end, as we've talked about, Eva does decide eventually to stop after all the four levels. So she does have her vote, but she does not get the knowledge as power advantage. She goes back and then tells everyone just the truth of what happened. She tells them exactly what happened and does not seem to hide anything or keep anything a secret. Molly, do you think that she should have tried to come up with some lie here or keep, just maybe tell Joe or Shaheen, like, not the entire tribe? What do you think?
I think Eva's just a very trustworthy person. She wants to tell everyone everything at that point, that it makes her feel good to share it all. So I think it made sense for her to give everyone the truth there. And obviously, they're also kind of rubbing people the wrong way in some ways because, like, well, yeah, you have all this power and you told us you didn't want it anymore. Like, or like not didn't need it to have another sort of advantage here. And even talking to Mary, being like, yeah, like you could have had this one, or like you would have loved this one. Like, that's not great for Mary to hear. So I don't know. I think at this point they're just that's how she wanted to go about it, and I think it makes sense for her in that moment. But I don't think I would have done it the same way.
Yeah, I mean that's her personality. It's just
Yeah,
like she's gonna tell everyone everything, and she tried to keep her one the what is it, the safety without power that she has. Yeah, she was like, I'm gonna keep this one a secret, and then the next episode she tells everyone in her alliance. So I think as much as she might try, she just that seems to be something that she just can't get herself to do.
The way that it was presented to us initially is like that was going to be her Achilles heel. I feel like they planted the seeds. They did all the good stuff, episode 1 through 3, of being like, I have an inability to tell when people are lying. I can't really read some
Hmm.
situations well. I don't really know how to. And I was like, that's going to be her ultimate demise in the game because it makes no sense that she would just be able to be like athletic and true and honest and successful because we've never seen that happen before. But now we know why we've never seen that happen before. It's boring. Like, honestly, like, I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve to go to the end, but her speech is going to be very much a. I didn't play much of a game at all. I was really good at challenges. That was it. I was just really good.
Yeah.
And I ate a lot. And so I was always pretty well fueled. And so as a whole, I did well. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I can't not give her my vote over that because she didn't have to do anything else. So like, okay.
Yeah, I feel like her big thing, if she does make Final Three, is going to be I aligned myself with Joe. I found the right person that I trusted 100% in the game, and I tied myself to him, and we ran the game together. Like, I feel like that's going to be her big thing, and I don't think that that's necessarily something that normally a jury respects, that being kind of your big move in the game. But who knows with this season, with this jury, I don't know what they're gonna respect. I feel like they're gonna just respect somebody who played a loyal and honest game more than anything else. Like, and that's gonna be an interesting jury because it's so different than anything that we've seen in the recent past.
I mean, this will be the first season in a while where the biggest personalities are on the jury instead of making the speeches. So
Yeah.
like honestly, I how are Joe and Ava going to differentiate their game as far as a final tribal council situation? Unless something real big happens right now. But let's just say, end of this week, Eva uses her idol and gives her other safety to, sorry, she gets she uses one of her powers to leave the vote completely and keeps Joe's safe too. So they both make it there. Cool, great. How do you differentiate your game now? There is not a single thing that one of them did that the other one did not. So I guess Joe would just have to harp on the fact that he's like, well, I led us there, and he was like,
Yeah.
I followed. That's about, like, there's nothing between them that I'm like, yeah, you should win over you.
Yeah, I think Joe is gonna be like, I was the one who kind of kept our group together. I was the one that everyone trusted the most individually, and so without me, everyone kind of would have scattered and not stuck together as well. And I guess Eva will just kind of be like, well, I'm the one who had all the advantages in the idols, and I, was able to save Joe. If, let's say, she does use an idol on Joe and saves herself too, she'll be like, without doing that, then we wouldn't have gotten here, possibly. Like, I guess she'll just kind of, yeah, have to use that as her big move of the game. But yeah, I agree. It's going to be very difficult for them to differentiate each other, especially if they're both there together. If only one of them is there, then that's a different story. But like, I feel like if they're both there, yeah, I don't know how I would decide which one of them to go with. But yeah, Molly, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that is really interesting because there really isn't much differentiation there because of how they played the game. So I don't know. That would be difficult for them to give their cases there.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens in the next couple votes here, because maybe some one of them will do something to differentiate, but
We're gonna
kind of doubt
hope.
it.
We're gonna
Yeah.
hope. I mean, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters less is when Kyle told Camilla he's a lawyer, and she was like, "That's nice." So anyway, which I was obsessed with. I was like, you know what? Yes. She's like, anyway. So on to things that actually matter, because like it doesn't matter. It just, like, for where they are right now
Hmm.
in the game, he thought that was gonna be like a bombshell, and she put the pin back in the grenade and was like, hold on to this for later anyway, and like continued on to something completely different, and I was like, yes, let's go.
It
Yes.
reminded me so much of last season when Sue at the final tribal was like, guys, I was lying about my age. I am like 10 years older than I said I was. And everyone's like, yeah, we knew.
Because you have eyes and ears and senses, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
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 Okay, cool.
Oh gosh, good times. Well, let's get to the immunity challenge here. The challenge was to push a wheelbarrow over a series of obstacles while balancing a vase containing a key. Along the way, a second vase is added, and once they got to the finish, use those keys to put together an arch puzzle. Now I have to say, like, this challenge, I was like, okay, whatever, it's the same as always. I laughed out loud a couple of times during this challenge. Like when
Hilariously bad.
Joe,
Hilariously bad.
oh my god, that was, what was it? Something fun blindside or
Got
But
fun
got
betrayal, and
got
like,
from betrayal.
here's the thing: as a former middle school educator for 12
Mm.
years, nothing made me happier as a teacher when my kids would raise their hand and be so wrong and so strong, and you're like, "No, baby, that's not it. That's not the answer." But like confidently wrong, like hard. And he was like, "Got it. Got fun betrayal." And we were like, "Wait, what?" That's not even how you spell betrayal. Like, there were so many things to pick apart that I was like, where to begin? What do you mean got fun betrayal? That's not a thing that anyone has ever said out loud in English. So like, I can't help you.
Especially this season.
Also that. And then ironically, the I love the fact that they left that in because the editors were looking at us at the end like, got fun betrayal, and I was like, no, no, there's
No,
no
we don't.
betrayal happening. This entire hour and a half, no
Yeah.
fun betrayal happened.
Yeah, got milk? Yes, this season. Got
Always.
betrayal? No.
Nope.
Well, we had also, this was for reward, or like we said, it was another food reward: sushi, chicken teriyaki, noodles, iced tea, and chocolate cake, which honestly sounds great to me. And I'm not even starving on an island. But it does first appear that Joe won. And then he had one piece, the very first piece, flipped the wrong way to the wrong colored side. So he ends up losing, and Camilla, who was right behind him, ends up winning immunity there. Now, this to me was like, we have an opportunity. Joe and Eva are both vulnerable. Let's do something with it. Molly, do you think in that moment that that something's gonna happen here?
Yeah, no, that ending was actually crazy because then Joe did get figure out the right word because of him hearing from what Kyle had put up, but then Kyle had one letter mixed up in his as well that was on the wrong
Mm.
side or on the other side, which I was so sad for that. I was like, oh, Kyle, you're so close. But I'm glad Camilla ended up with this win here, and I definitely thought we had a chance. I was like, wow, okay, Joe didn't win immunity. Someone can actually make a big move, and then they didn't. So
Yeah.
it didn't happen. But
I
hopefully
don't.
next week, as we keep saying, but we'll see.
Okay, I like need to rewind us a little bit just to like
Okay.
keep it all in perspective.
Yeah.
Joe had, they're still not realizing how much of a threat Joe is when mathematically, let's just run the numbers. He completed the challenge twice in the time that poor Mother Mary was trying to get the vases over the freaking thing. Like literally,
Oh, poor
he
Mary.
completed it twice to the point where he got the wrong answer. All the blocks went down. Then he rebuilt it, got the right ones. And then the only reason he didn't win was on a technicality. So technically, he completed it twice in the time that some of them still couldn't. In the time that poor Shaheen, that had a head start, couldn't do it once. I don't think they're realizing that. That I'm like, but if you like look at like the math, he went around them in circles, and yet we're still not taking this man out. And he completed that challenge 2 times.
That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's very, very true. That the hard part of it is just completing it. Like, yes, he had the wrong word, but like just physically he was able to do that so many times that if he had had the right word from the start, he would have gotten there so much faster than anyone else. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's such a huge threat, and it's just bonkers to me that like they know it, they see it, they've said it out loud, but they just can't pull that trigger.
Yeah.
Well, Camilla chooses Mitch and Eva to go on the reward with her. Molly, what did you think of those picks? I feel like I was just kind of surprised. Mitch made sense to me. Sure, he hasn't eaten. He wants to eat. Eva, that choice. I mean, she did explain it, but that did surprise me at the moment.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised to hear her pick Mitch, but I was surprised about Eva as well. I mean, she didn't want to pick Kyle because she didn't want to expose their duo there, so that makes sense. And I don't know. I guess she could have gone with Joe over Eva, but or Shaheen. Like there's other options there. She wasn't gonna pick Mary, but I think, but it would have been fun if she actually did bring Mary. I think because obviously then Mary would be like, oh, well, actually, I did get out on a reward. But I don't know. I think at this point in the game, it's like you're getting close to the end. You want to bring people you think you can talk strategy with or just keep them comfortable and
Yeah.
have that aspect there. So I think it made sense overall, though.
If I
Would you?
were Camilla, hot take, and I know that was just making the strong people stronger, I would have brought Joe and Eva with me.
Mm.
Only because you have to talk. You have to get it together. If she was like, y'all, I'm going to make this real easy on you. I'm bringing them. I'm bringing them with me. We're going away. Get it together. I need you to get it together in the next hour while the three of us are gone. I have immunity, and these two don't suspect a thing. Get it together.
That's smart. That's a
That
really
was
smart move, actually. Yeah, I wonder if that would have changed things to have them. I don't know how long they're at reward. I'm not sure how long that gives them to talk, but like you would think that they would have to strategize at that point. It's like, okay, we can do this out in the open. They're not here. Mom and dad are away. Like, let's talk.
I think even what Kyle was saying before is that like sometimes it's like the small pushes instead of the big moves in the game.
Yeah.
And so if I've learned anything from competition and reality, it's you can't control everything, but you can make things very easy. People will tend to take the choice that's easier. And so if
Hmm.
I were Camilla, I'd be like, I'm literally taking them away. Guys, you have no other option but to talk. You could all sit and have a meeting. All of you could. You don't have to look to your right or left and see who's there. I got them with me. Just get it together. And I feel like they would have.
Yeah, yeah, it's a smart move. I wonder, yeah, that makes me curious to know if that would have potentially changed things, but I guess we'll never know unless someone asks. But Mary tells Joe back at camp after award that she is going to vote for him tonight. She just flat out says it to him that she is going to put his name down. Now, this starts a spiral that Mary, I think, was hoping for. This was the point of her telling Joe this, that Joe gets very paranoid here, that he is going to go home. If she has an idol, potentially, he thinks that that's why she's saying this, because she has an idol, she's going to pull out of nowhere, and he is going to go home if nobody else votes for anyone else besides Mary. Everyone tries to tell Joe, no, she doesn't have anything. You're getting paranoid. Don't worry about it. But Molly, do you think Joe is justified in being paranoid about this? Or is Shaheen right that it's like, it's one vote, dude? Get it together.
I think because Joe in this moment was like, oh my gosh, I've never had a vote towards me. Like he's always felt that secure that it does make sense. He was getting nervous about it, just hearing his name as a potential of a vote from Mary, which isn't like obviously he knows it could come from Mary, but like in general, like having a vote, I think did make him then go into that. And obviously, like in this setting, you don't know who you can trust always. And even if they say they're very strong and they all are going to stick together, you never know what could happen, which in this season we do know typically. But in other seasons, you don't know what's going to happen
In theory.
in theory. And so I think it makes sense because I mean, we know Mary doesn't have anything either, but you don't always know everything.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think I would have been nervous, but not to the level I think that Joe got nervous for. Like, I don't think that made like as much sense just because he knew he was so close with so many people. But I don't know. It was it was interesting to see that because then I thought, oh, maybe he is going to be going home tonight, and then that didn't end up
Womp
happening.
womp.
So then looking back on it now,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so why was he paranoid?
Yeah.
As your resident Australian Survivor expert,
Yes.
what I do love about the Australian game is that there's always numerous idols at play. Like when I say numerous, I mean like three to
Mhm.
four, which you're like, that's so many. But it does make the game far more interesting. The American version of one idol in, one idol out, because Eva's holding it, you know that there isn't enough. Like there just isn't another one. There just isn't. And so until she gets rid of hers, then we can bring it back in. But in Australia, they sometimes there were at one point two idols out, three idols out, four idols out when they were still split in two. So like there was a lot more happening. But now because the idol hasn't been used yet, it's just kind of it's all the things that have made this season stall because now we're just waiting still with two episodes left, just chilling.
Yeah, no, Australian Survivor feels kind of like US Survivor in the 30s era, where there wasn't as much like, okay, in order to get this idol, there's like all these puzzles and steps you have to take to get it, which I kind of like that aspect of it because I feel like a person should have to earn an idol, really. In Australian Survivor, it often feels like, oh my God, I just found this lying on the ground here.
Right.
Like, here's an idol. So there is part of that I like, but I agree. It is kind of fun when there's something that always someone can pull out to make things go haywire. And that does kind of add to the chaos of Australian Survivor versus the kind of stillness of the season of US Survivor.
Let's go with stillness. I like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stillness. Let's do
A nice way of putting it, maybe. But well, then we get to tribal, and honestly, there's not much to report at tribal the conversation that was had because they were not really talking much about the game this time. They were just talking about their reason for why they were there and their stories, and I think that says a lot about how little question there was of what was going to happen. Actually, they tried to make us think that there was potentially going to be something that was being made here, a move being made, and I took the bait yet again, as I always do, that maybe this time something will happen, but it seems like based on the questioning, I feel like at camp there must not have been much question.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just they didn't want Mary there.
Yeah. Yeah, she ate the coconut and that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But she was voted out 6-1. So not a close vote here. But do you think Molly
Oh my gosh, yes. The David stand up.
Oh my god. An incredible
Iconic
moment.
behavior. Icons only, David. Icon from the jump, from the minute it happened. I screamed, I laughed, I yelled. I was like, who could I text right now? Like I was the reality TV viewer in me was like, yup, give me more of this insanity. I want it.
I just need to know what that was like to be there in that moment, like without the music, without the anything,
Look
like
at Star, who's hysterically
oh my
trying not to
god, I
laugh,
know.
holding her mouth. That's what it was like to be there.
But like I feel like just based on David's personality, he was not doing that to be funny, right? Like I
No, no.
he was truly doing that as like a sign of like respect for Mary or
Mhm.
something. Like and that's oh my god. What a what a human.
Again, you guys have been in the game way longer than I have. Has anyone ever done it before? It's hard to say
No.
48 seasons in that there are still things where you're like, well, that's new.
That's a
That's
first.
new.
That's
That's
a
new
first.
for
Yep.
sure. Yeah.
That wow. Yeah, that was but that was another moment. Like this episode, look, it was predictable, but there were still some really fun moments. And that's what
Like
I say like
it's the equivalent of like Star's music video from a week ago. I was like, you know
right.
what? Episode was a disaster. Music video, yup. I wanted it all. Like that's
Last
why
week
I
was
think
Survivor the musical with the fried chicken and waffles chant with Stars music video. We got an album coming from last episode and then this week was just like Survivor the comedy.
literally that man stood up like a Calvin Klein ad from 1994. Like, here's what I need you to do in your head. Take that pose, take off the shirt, black and white jeans, backwards hat. I was like, oh, he's giving us Calvin Klein. Like, just stoic, just
Yeah.
cheekbones for days, just a scowl on scowl. And I was like, yo, what's happening right now? And it's so good watching the rest of them behind him be like, the hell? Like nobody had any idea what
Yeah.
was happening. Iconic behavior.
Yeah, that's a moment that we will not soon forget for sure. But Molly, what are your predictions for next week? Just based on where we are right now, what do you think's gonna happen?
Well, I really want Kyle, Mitch, and Camilla to make a move and just overall do something more in the game right now versus just letting Joe, Shaheen, Eva kind of run it. And I mean, I guess Shaheen could be involved in some sort of thing to get Joe out because I think he could be convinced. But for sure, Kyle, Mitch, and Camilla, I think, have the chance here. So I'm hoping that one of them will win immunity, and then I mean, Eva's gonna be safe because she has an idol.
Yeah,
So maybe she'll won't realize. Maybe they'll be able to blindside her and Joe and get out Joe. But we'll have to see. I really just don't know. At this point, it's like, are they just too strong of a group to get anyone to flip? But or to get Kyle, Mitch, and Camilla to go against them. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, take a risk. You said is the title, so it hopefully is going to have something happen.
yeah,
All right. So here's my question for you both.
yes,
In just looking at the resumes as they are,
Mm-hmm.
is there someone that you think could give a compelling final tribal speech other than Kyle? Maybe Camilla, but even if you look at Camilla's resume per se, all of her moves were so underground and with Kyle. Would a final tribal believe that she made them? If that makes sense, because like
yeah, yeah,
moves are only good if people know if you're able to explain them and prove that they were yours, and everyone's like, oh, you did do that, but like I don't know if she's gonna have that. So like, are we testing for three bad speeches that we're like, well, yours is the least bad?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has like a truly great resume yet. And that's the problem, is that the people who are in power aren't doing anything because they're in power, and the people who are out of power aren't doing anything either. And so when you have a season where that's the dynamic, nobody's going to have a great resume. So I think, yeah, it's kind of just who I truly honestly think with this jury, depending on who the last few are, I guess, but I think it's really going to come down to who played the most loyal game, who played the most honest game. And that's going to be what this jury seems to probably respect. And that's why I think that Joe, everyone thinks, oh, Joe's the obvious winner here. But I kind of feel like David is so mad at Joe. And I think that he could poison the jury against Joe, to where if somebody else has a similar, like Eva, I think that David's going to really try to get them to vote for Eva. And because they're so similar, I could see everyone kind of going with that, maybe. I don't know.
But do you think David has enough clout with that group? Because to be honest, I have to say no only because that's how he got there in the first place. Let's be
True.
honest.
Yeah.
True.
So, does he have the clout that he needs to swing that group of people?
Yeah, I don't know, because Mary will be there and they're close.
Fair.
So maybe Mary, but yeah, maybe otherwise, maybe he doesn't. I just always think that like somebody who's been there for like since the beginning of the jury always kind of has that like the mayor of the jury, where it's like everyone comes in is like they've been there for so long and they've just been talking to them for so long, and someone who has like a very strong opinion, if everyone else doesn't have a strong opinion necessarily, if they keep hearing that all day long, they're just going to kind of get in their head. But you could be right that they just kind of like roll their eyes at David and don't really care what he has to say so much. But
Yeah.
I guess I'm predicting a Joe win, and I
yeah,
don't. It's not that I don't want it. I've met Joe. He's amazing. He's great. But
so
it would be
nice. Yeah.
so anticlimactic where you're like, oh, I guess he just was successful the whole time, and you're like, that's
Hmm.
good, right? I guess, but like, it just doesn't make amazing, riveting reality TV. If the only way that I'd be really like, I need to watch that last episode is, let's say our final three are like Ava, Mitch, and Camilla. I'd be like, I have no idea what's about to happen right now. I don't know what these speeches are
Yeah.
going to sound like. The resume is not a clue, but I would need to see something so far and beyond with like no Shaheen, no Kyle, no Joe. I was like, then that would be the only way to open up the door, and the odds are not looking like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it would be interesting to have three people who have very played very different games and have come from three to very different kind of positions in the game. So that would be a very interesting final three if that's were to happen. But I don't know that I see that as of right now. But we'll see. Who knows? Who knows? But anyways, I think that's unless we missed anything here, I think that that covers this episode. So Philip, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we find you on social media? Do you have anything to plug?
You can normally find me at Costco or on Instagram. So on Instagram, TikTok, P Solomon 12, all O's, PSOLOMON, the number 12, because I'm born in December on New Year's Eve, the worst
Ah,
birthday ever. The
whoa.
worst. So I'm New Year's Eve. My mom is Christmas. My brother's St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, so it's like a whole big thing. Anyway,
Wow.
so in turn, hit me up on social media. I respond, I engage. I'm watching the episodes along with you to the point where it is Mother's Day. So I messaged Mary this morning. I let her know Happy Mother's Day because that woman is everything.
Mother Mary.
Mother Mary
Yes.
always.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Philip. Again, this was so much fun. And thank you for listening or watching. And be sure to follow us on social media at Let's Chat Reality. And we will be back next week for another episode of Survivor. So happy Mother's Day to everyone. Belated Mother's Day, I guess, by the time this comes out tomorrow. But we will catch you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.